Well, here we go. I'm going to put together as much of this today as I can. I'm still taking my time. I have good news. All the remaining parts have been ordered. Let's take out our motherboard. SATA cables. Instructions. Quick installation guide. Thank you. More. Well, these don't really mean much anymore. So, on the very bottom, I have 2 screws and 1 washer in here. I don't know if you could see those. So we're going to use this box as a table. So it is time to unveil our motherboard. Let's do that. You notice I have an ESD wrist band on here, so we don't get any ESD or electric charges. Here we go. There it is in all of its beauty. We'll talk about this for just a minute. And so you could see here we have this particular area. Let me get a pointer. So this will be where the Ryzen CPU goes, and there'll be a fan on top of it. And over here will be where the memory will go. I got 2 sticks, and we'll put those in numbers 2 and numbers 4. And over here, we'll put on the M.2. This is going to be our main 1 terabyte drive. So Ryzen will go here. Fan will go on top of the Ryzen. This drive, 1 terabyte drive, is going to go right here, and the memory sticks are going to go right here. How's that? So next step, I'm going to put on the I'm going to insert our CPU. So this is the brains of the system. And again, it's a Ryzen 5 5600G series. So I want to get out of it. On the side, there it is, our Ryzen. And I might have these lights too bright. Let me just lower it a bit. So here we are. And also included in the box is the fan. And I'm not going to use this one. This is all else that was in there, which is really just installation instructions, but I think I kind of understand it. So here we go. I'm going to turn up a little bit of brightness for you here. So we're going to put it here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and lift it up. So this is going to eventually lock it in. And there's supposed to be, and right here is an arrow, which I don't think you can see here. And that triangle is where I'm going to put the triangle, which is right here for our CPU. So let's open it up. I am not going to touch the pins. I am not going to touch the pins. Here we go. See this triangle right here? And I'm going to put that this corner here. It just dropped in there really nice. So I'm sorry I have this upside down, but I thought this would give you the best viewing. So we're all set, and let's go ahead and lock it in. We're done. The CPU is now installed. And I got Vengeance LPX, 2 8 gigabit sticks of DDR4, 3600 megahertz. I know I could have gone faster, but I feel comfortable. With this. So here we go. So I'm going to open up to and it only opens on one side, which is fine. So we're going to put them here again in 2 and 4. And if you didn't know already, there's a notch here. So you can only put it in one way, so it only fits in one way. And let's see, based on where that notch is, I believe it's going to only be this way. And as I push it down, if I did this right, I don't know if you heard that, but this snapped in place here. So right here, the tab snapped in place when I got it in. So we now have 8 gigabits, and let's go to 16. And again, someday we'll make that more, but right now that's all we need. So here we go, Corsair 1 and 2. I don't know if you heard that snap, but it did. So our memory is in. So we now have our CPU and we now have our memory. Both are installed and ready to go. All right, I'm going to move this over now, and we're going to focus on this. And again, I think this will take a little while, but I'm not sure that it's because it's difficult, more so just because it's there'll be a lot of taking off some brackets, adding brackets, and all those other things that go along with it. All right, I'm going to put this aside for now. We're not going to use all the parts because I think this is set up for either Intel or AMD. And of course, we're going to do AMD. I'm going to move the camera just a bit for you. So what do we have so far? We have a parts list. Here's the Intel installation guide and the AMD. So I'm going to focus on the AMD, of course. And looks like we'll have to go ahead and install the bracket. So I'm going to set that aside for just a second and show you what we have. You could see here we have 4 pipes. Nice air system to allow air to travel. This we're going to have to remember to take off, and hopefully there's going to be paste. If not, I do have paste. If you didn't know this, you need thermal paste to go between here and the CPU. So we're going to do that. I'm going to keep this in here to keep it safe. So remember I told you there's 2 fans. So we have 2 different fans here. And finally, we have in this box hardware and cables. This is nice. So this cable would allow us to take the 2 fans and just use 1 connector. So that's good news. And we have our bracket for AMD and a bracket for Intel. Actually, it's the same bracket, just two different sides. And there is the thermal paste. So we did get paste with it. I'm happy. Here is the AMD side, and there is the Intel side. This is neat. Just like building an old-time model airplane or boat or whatever, you could see we have the screws, spacers, etc. here. And this bracket will be the bracket that will hold it in on top. So hoping you could see all of that well. I'm going to make a bit of a change here in what I was going to do. And prior to putting the fan on, just because of where the drive is located, the SSD, I'm going to go ahead and install this first before I do the fan, because I think the fan is going to kind of stick out a bit. So let's first take this off. Okay, so I've taken off the cover. That's going to go back on there. Go over it. And we're going to put the memory, the SSD drive, our SSD drive, in there. So let's see what we got. We'll open up the box for you. That is your hard drive, well, your SSD. 1 terabyte, as I said. It's a Samsung drive. You'll see I decided to go all Samsung with the drive. So, well, there's really nothing in the box but the SSD and some information, I'm sure, on installation. This looks pretty straightforward. It looks like all we're going to do is take it, put it in here, push it down, and screw it in. And we would push it in that way. And then screw it down here. Okay. So let me get these. Remember those small screws that came with the motherboard? I am going to go find them now. These are the screws I'm guessing. I'm going to go read the instructions that we use to put the SSD in. Let me give you an idea how small these screws are. I told you I thought I had 2 screws in 1 washer. Nope, I have 3 screws, and this is the size of them. So let's see if we can get this in. So I'm going to put it on an angle like that. I pushed it in. I'm going to now put it down here, and it fits perfectly over the screw hole. I'm sorry, I'm blocking you here. And here we go. I'm just tightening it like that. It is in. We now have 1 terabyte of storage here. There's the whole thing. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to take off this piece here, so it doesn't, and this will get somewhat warm, but this is all the right way to do it. And here we go. So I'm going to put it back where I took it out of. Sorry to keep blocking you. There we go. You now have, or we now have, 1 terabyte of memory, 16 gigabytes of, we now have 1 gigabyte of storage. We have 16 gigabytes of memory. We have a 5600G Ryzen CPU. So next up is the fan. So the first step for the fan is I'm going to take these brackets out, which were built for the stock fan that we're not going to use, that came with the Ryzen CPU. So when I take those out, it's also going to unscrew underneath the bracket, so I just have to be careful of that. So I'm going to do that now. hoping you could see this. It's just simply taking out these 4 screws, and as I said, underneath is a bracket that will also come out once I get these screws out. So there's no brackets here anymore, as you could see. And underneath, the bracket that was there is gone. And we're going to start working with the bracket underneath. And again, I'm going to use this bracket. There's an AMD, and it shows you exactly where the screws are going to go. I'm going to put it like this underneath, and it is going to fit perfectly. On the AMD bracket, so this the AMD side will be facing like that. I have a AM4 board, so I put these screws in here, and so from the bottom they'll go like this. They're nice because they're squared, so they remain in even when on the top you're screwing these in. So far so good. Just for illustration, let me show you that I've gone ahead and I put the bracket underneath, and you can see here the 4 screws that are sticking up. And now I'm going to put a spacer in that came in the packet that you saw already. Next step, as I mentioned, is I'll go ahead and put the spacers on. This is what the spacers look like. I'm going to put 4 of them on. The Intel spacers do look slightly different. Well, they are different. They're notched, so they look different. Then I'm going to put these on top of the spacer. So with the spacers on, as I look at the instructions, here's the bracket that will go on next. So let me go ahead and get this going, and I'll be right back. I'm going to go ahead and fit this bracket here on where these screws are. So that's it. So the bracket is now in, and I'm going to take this part here and fasten the bracket with it. It's just simple like that. There's 4 of them, of course. And next step after this is we're going to go ahead and put the thermal paste on the CPU. I'm also going to stop and go back on the instructions and make sure I've got this all put in the exact right way, because this bracket is not equal on all sides, so I need to make sure it's correct. Our the bracket is now in. It's secure. Of course, you've already seen our CPU is installed. So the next step is I'm going to put the paste on, the thermal paste, and I'll show you how I do it. I've found everybody does it a different way. Somebody puts a drop like a pea, some people put a line across, a whole bunch of things. I'm going to put a drop in the middle, and then I'm going to take a small spatula device and spread it out. So that's what I'm going to do. And then this will go on top of it and be secured by another bracket we have. So here we go. Thank you, Thermal Lake, for providing the paste. And I'm going to, let's see if I can put it in so you could see. I'm going to put it right there in the middle. I didn't put too much, as you could see. And here is the little spatula device. And I'm just going to spread it a bit. Well, I don't know if this is right or this is wrong. I've spread the thermal paste out after just putting a little pea size on there, and then it just kept spreading, so it went really well. And so now I'm ready to go ahead and put the cooler on. Well, as best as I could tell on the instructions and the picture, it's going to go this way. And here's the bracket, and the bracket fits in here, and the screws are already embedded inside the bracket. So I'm going to sit here a bit. You're probably not going to see this perfectly. I'm going to put that there, and I have one in, And we'll get this one. I did take off the piece that said, remember to take this off. That's in tight. I don't want to go too tight, but I think, oh, that's nice and tight. We have it. So what's left is the fans have to go on because that's what's going to move the heat away from our CPU. Let me just show you this. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some brackets on the two fans that we have. So we're going to put these brackets on and then snap the fans in, one on each side. And over here, if you can see, you can't see the words, but this is where the CPU fan plugs in. Welcome back. As you can see, I have one of the fans put on the right side there. I'm going to go ahead and put the second fan on. And as you can see, I have the brackets. So here we go. We're just going to snap it in on the other side of the cooling tower. And there it goes. Done. So we now have both fans on. So let's go ahead now, and I'm going to attach each fan to the included dongle that came from Thermalake. And so we'll put each fan in. Now that we have both fans individually attached, the next step is going to take those two fans that are attached, and I'm going to put it onto the motherboard specifically to where it says CPU fan. And that is it. We're done.